Every Pokemon generation since Gen 2 has given us box legendaries. Those iconic Pokemon that grace the cover of each version are usually some of the most powerful Pokemon in the entire game, if not the entire series. But here's the thing, even though box legendaries are supposed to be equals, one is almost always better than the other, whether that's competitively, in the story, or in just terms of overall usefulness. Though, do keep in mind for this video, we're primarily going to be looking at competitive, because most of the times in the story when you do get a box legendary, you're almost basically done with the game, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. In this video, I'm going to be ranking the best box legendary from every generation. We're gonna ignore the third legendaries like Rayquaza and Giratina since they're usually intentionally made stronger, and we're also gonna be skipping remakes like Fire Red and Leaf Green since they don't have unique box legendaries. For Gen 2, we're looking at Lugia from Silver versus Ho-oh from Gold. And honestly, this one's pretty close, but I'm gonna give this to Lugia. Lugia is basically a defensive monster with insane bulk and access to recover, making it one of the best walls in the entire game. It has base 106 HP, 130 in both of his defenses, and a solid 110 speed, which is insane for a tanky Pokemon. Its Psychic and Flying type gives it a ton of resistances and only 5 real weaknesses. And with the ability multi-scale from Gen 5 onwards, it became even more ridiculous since it takes half damage when at full HP. And you could use Recover to further boost this if that wasn't obvious already. Ho-oh on the other hand is more of an offensive powerhouse with 130 attack, 110 special attack, and access to Sacred Fire, which is an insanely strong move that also has a 50% chance to burn, which basically cripples physical attackers. Its ability Regenerator from Gen 5 onwards also helps it recover when switching out, which does kind of negate its 4 times weakness to Stealth Rock, which is really common in competitive. It's also worth noting, if you guys haven't noticed already, Lugia primarily has high defense stats and Ho-oh has high in both of its attack stats. And if I'm gonna be honest, I think Ho-oh definitely did get the shorter end of the stick, because in Pokemon, primarily you're going to be using both of your defense stats because, you know, you're going to be taking special attacks and physical attacks in a battle. But when it comes to your attack stat, you're only really going to be investing into one. The other problem with Ho-oh is the fact that it's a lot more one-dimensional than Lugia. Like, yeah, it hits hard, but it struggles in longer battles, and its defensive typing of Fire and Flying means it takes 50% of its HP from Stealth Rock, which is, again, everywhere in competitive. Lugia can also run defensive sets, offensive sets, support sets with Whirlwind and Toxic, and it's just way more versatile. Gen 3 is where things get interesting because we're dealing with primal forms. But even looking at just base Groudon vs Kyogre, I'm gonna give this one to Groudon, and here's why. Kyogre has been historically more dominant with Drizzle being permanent rain and Origin Pulse being an absolute nuke with 180 base special attack, and in a vacuum Kyogre is terrifying. Like rain boosted Water Sprout or Origin Pulse coming off of that special attack stat can OHKO basically anything in the game. But Groudon brings something Kyogre doesn't, and that's team control and utility. Groudon's Drought ability not only boosts its fire moves, but more importantly, it shuts down water attacks completely when it's in its primal form due with the ability Desolate Land. Primal Groudon is also one of the best Stealth Rock setters in Ubers, and it can run defensive sets, offensive sets with Swords Dance and Rock Polish, and its ground and fire typing in primal form gives it way better coverage than Kyogre. The big thing that pushes Groudon over the edge is versatility. Primal Groudon can check Xerneas, it can wall Primal Kyogre, it can set up sweep, it can phase with Dragon Tail, and it's just more flexible in team building. Kyogre is an amazing Pokemon as a wall breaker, but it's pretty much locked into that role. And if the opponent has a Primal Groudon, you're kinda screwed since your water moves literally don't work. And competitively, Primal Groudon at a certain point was called nigh mandatory, because it compresses so much rolls into one slot. So yeah, Groudon takes Gen 3. Gen 4 is actually pretty debatable, but I'm gonna give this one to Dialga by a slim margin. Both Dialga and Palkia have 680 base stat total and 150 special attack, so they're pretty evenly matched on paper. Palkia is faster at 100 speed compared to Dialga's 90, and it has a slightly better special attack distribution. Palkia's Water and Dragon typing is also really solid offensively with access to Spatial Rend, Surf, Thunder, and Hydro Pump. But here's where Dialga edges ahead. Its Steel and Dragon typing is arguably one of the best defensive typings in the entire game. Steel Dragon gives Dialga resistances or immunity to 12 out of the 17 types, which is absolutely insane. It's immune to Poison, Resist Normal, Water, Electric, Grass, Flying, Psychic, Bug, Rock, Ghost, Dark, and Steel, and it's only weak to Fighting and Ground. This means Dialga can switch into way more threats than Palkia can, and it can set up Stealth Rock more reliably. Dialga's signature move Roar of Time is also slightly better than Spatial Rend in terms of raw power at 150 base versus 100. Though the recharge turn is a pretty big drawback. Competitively, Dialga functions as both a bulky attacker and support Pokemon. It can run mixed sets with Draco Meteor and Earthquake, it can run Choice Specs or Choice Band, it's got way more flexibility. Palkia is really good as a Choice Specs wall breaker, but that's kinda it, and its typing leaves it more vulnerable to common threats. So Dialga takes Gen 4, but honestly this one could go either way depending on the meta and how you see it. Gen 5 is another close one, but I'm actually going to go against my initial research here, and I'm going to have to go with Reshiram. Both Reshiram and Zekrom have an identical 680 base stat total, with their offensive stats flipped. Reshiram has 150 special attack and 120 attack, whereas Zekrom has 150 attack and 120 special attack. They also have the same exact bulk and speed at 100, so they're legitimately equals in most ways. The difference comes down to their roles and typings. Reshiram is a dragon and fire type, which is an insanely good offensive typing, and with sun support from Groudon, its blue flare becomes one of the most powerful moves in the entire game. Reshiram can also run mixed sets pretty effectively and has better special coverage with Fire Blast, Draco Meteor, and Earth Power. Zekrom is a dragon and electric type, which is also a unique and powerful typing, and its physical sets with Bolt Strike and Outrage are devastating. Zekrom also doesn't have Stealth Rocks as a weakness, unlike Reshiram, who does take 25% as a fire type, and as you guys know, Stealth Rocks is pretty common in competitive. So this does give Zekrom a bit more switching opportunities, but it's nothing too crazy. Competitively, both have seen tons of usage in Ubers. Reshiram is better on sun teams and as a special wall breaker, whereas Zekrom can use Volt Switch, which also gives it pivoting options that Reshiram doesn't have. In the story, they are both equals, representing truth and ideals, and canonically they are supposed to be at a stalemate with each other, so honestly, this one's pretty difficult to call. But I'm gonna give the slight edge to Reshiram just because Sun Boosted Blue Flare is one of the most terrifying attacks in the entire game, and its special coverage is slightly better. But yeah, Gen 5 is basically a tie, but for the sake of the video, we're gonna go with Reshiram. Gen 6 is actually pretty straightforward. Xerneas dominates this matchup pretty handedly. Xerneas is a fairy type with 131 HP, 131 in both of his defenses, 126 speed, and a whopping 131 special attack. But here's the thing that makes Xerneas absolutely broken. Its Power Herb plus Geomancy set is just, it's not fair, bro, I'm not gonna lie. Xerneas raises its special attack, special defense, and speed by 2 stages each, and with the Power Herb, it happens in 1 turn instead of 2. This means after 1 Geomancy, Xerneas has +2 in 3 different stats and can sweep the entire team with Moonblast. Fairy type also destroys dragons, which are everywhere. Like a good portion of this video are also dragons. And it also only has 2 weaknesses, which are poison and steel. Yveltal is also really strong, don't get me wrong. It has 126 in both of its attack and special attack stats, with 99 speed and Dark Aura, which boosts dark moves by 33%, and its signature move Oblivion Wing is also really good since it heals Yveltal for 75% of the damage dealt. Yveltal's Dark Flying type also gives it a solid offensive presence. But here's the problem, Yveltal doesn't have anything as game breaking as Geomancy, and it's a strong attacker, but it doesn't have the ability to take over games like Xerneas does. Xerneas can also set up on pretty much anything that doesn't have a priority or a steal move, and once it gets off that Geomancy, it's basically just game over. Competitively, Xerneas has been one of the most feared sweepers in Ubers since Gen 6. It defines entire team archetypes, and you pretty much need specific counters for it or you lose. Yveltal is good, but it's more of a support/attacker hybrid that doesn't match Xerneas' switch potential. So yeah, Xerneas takes Gen 6 pretty convincingly. Gen 7 is interesting because both Solgaleo and Lunala are pretty equally matched, but I'm gonna give this one to Lunala by a small margin. Solgaleo is a Steel Psychic type with 137 attack, 137 HP, 107 defense, and 89 special defense with 97 speed. Its ability Full Metal Body prevents stat drops, which is really good against Intimidate and other stat lowering effects, and Solgaleo is a physical attacker that can also tank pretty well. Lunala is a Psychic Ghost type with 137 HP, 113 attack, 89 defense, 107 special defense, and 97 speed. Its ability Shadow Shield is basically multi-scale and it takes half damage while at full HP, which again is just insanely good. Lunala also leans towards more being a special attacker with 137 special attack, and its ghost typing gives it immunities to normal and fighting. The reason I'm giving this to Lunala is its ability Shadow Shield, which is just better than Full Metal Body. Taking half damage at full HP means Lunala gets way more setup opportunities, and it can survive hits that would normally otherwise OHKO it. Its Psychic Ghost type also gives it more useful immunities compared to Solgaleo's Steel and Psychic type, which has more weaknesses like Fire and Ground. Solgaleo is good, but it's just more straightforward as a physical attacker without the same defensive utility. So yeah, Lunala takes Gen 7, but it is honestly pretty close. Zacian absolutely destroys Zamazenta in every way that matters. Zacian in his crown sword form is a fairy steel with 92 HP, 170 attack, 115 defense, 80 special defense, and 148 speed. Its ability Interpret Sword gives it +1 attack when it enters the battle, which means it effectively has 255 attack from turn 1. And Zacian can OHKO or 2KO pretty much everything in the game with Behemoth Blade, Play of Love, or Close Combat. Zamazenta is a fighting steel type in crown shield form with 92 HP, 130 attack, 145 defense, 105 special defense, and 128 speed. Its ability Dauntless Shield gives it +1 defense on entry, which is good, but defense buffs are way less valuable than attack buffs in competitive. Zamazenta is a lot bulkier than Zacian, but it hits way less hard, and it is significantly slower, which also matters very much so in competitive. Zacian's fairy and steel typing also only has 2 weaknesses with fire and ground, while giving it a ton of resistances, whereas Zamazenta's fighting and steel type has 3 weaknesses, including a double weakness to fire. Zacian also just has better coverage with Play Rough for dragons, close combat for steel types, and Behemoth Blade, which does double damage to Dynamax Pokemon. There's really just no contest here. Zacian is miles better than Zamazenta. Gen 9 is another close one, but I'm going to give this to Miraidon by a slight edge. Both Koraidon and Miraidon have 670 base stat total in their 8 dex forms with really similar distributions. Koraidon is a fighting and dragon type with 100 HP, 135 attack, 115 defense, 85 special defense, and 135 speed. Its ability or Keelam, I'm not going to try and pronounce that, but Pulse creates harsh sunlight and boosts its attack by 30% in the sun, which is really strong. Miraidon is an electric dragon type with 100 HP, 85 attack, 100 defense, and 115 defense, a whopping 135 in its speed stat. Its ability Hydron Engine creates an electric train, and it boosts its special attack by 30 in the terrain, which is pretty strong. The reason I'm giving this to Miraidon is because it has better offensive distribution and more flexibility. Miraidon's electric and dragon typing has better coverage with Thunderbolt, Draco Meteor, and Volt Switch. Koraidon isn't bad by any means. It's a powerful physical attacker with Collision Course being an insanely strong 100 base power move that does double damage when super effective. But fighting in dragon as a type is just more exploitable, especially to fairy, flying, and psychic. Overall, Miraidon just has a slightly better competitive viability and more flexible team building options, so it takes Gen 9, but honestly it is really close. Obviously a lot of this is subjective and it depends on the meta, like some of these could go either way depending on whether you value offense or defense more. But overall, I think these are the strongest picks for each generation. If you guys made it to the end, comment on which box legendary you think I got wrong. Personally, I know Reshiram and Zekrom, Dialga and Palkia are going to be pretty controversial, so let me know what you think. Make sure to like and subscribe.